Hi, my name is Emily Stutz, and we're here with Captain Crowley to discuss the criminal consequences of opiates. Okay, how has the opioid heroin epidemic affected your job?
Well, the job of a police officer is very complicated, and in the last 5 years with this explosion in the opiate epidemic, at least 3/4 of the calls that we go on probably relate back to some type of drug problem, whether it's an overdose call, which we're taking at least 2 to 5 a day, to property crimes. Everything is related to this issue with drug abuse. Somewhere between 88 and 92% of the property crimes that go on in the city are related to drug abuse, whether it's car break-ins, house break-ins, robberies, thefts, unarmed robberies, armed robberies. They're all related to the drug problem.
Do you see a lot of juvenile offenders in drug-related cases?
What usually happens now is when they're younger and they are juveniles is when they start experimenting with drugs. There aren't many cases of full-blown opiate addicts in the juvenile court. There are some, but what you do see is the young people that are starting to get into it and it's gone out of control, and now they have to support what they're doing. So you have a lot of juvenile offenses that are related to drugs, whether it's stealing, breaking into houses or breaking into cars, doing offenses like that to support their drug habit. Usually in middle school, junior high, and high school, the biggest issue that we see is marijuana. And marijuana, from our perspective, and from many perspectives, is absolutely, without a doubt, a gateway drug. Because over the years, we've done many studies. I've personally done studies for college courses where we've interviewed people doing state prison time for drug-related offenses. And we survey them to find out how many started with marijuana. And every year we do it, we get the same percentage, 100. Anybody that's in jail for drug-related offense, whether it's a drug offense for dealing, possession with intent to deal, trafficking, or a robbery, a larceny, or some other crime that's related to support their drug habit, everyone started with marijuana. Now, does everybody that uses marijuana become a drug addict? No. But every drug addict started with marijuana. So that ought to tell you.
Before we head down and see what the booking process is like, do you have any words that you'd like to say to the students of Lowell?
I haven't been around here as long as I have, and I spent a good amount of time as a shift commander, so you see everybody that comes in that's under arrest. One of the common themes with young offenders is they didn't think they'd ever end up here. And it's unfortunately with the teenage mindset, which we all had when we were teenagers, even though mine was back in the dark ages, is that when it gets into drug use, there's a lot of peer pressure. There's a lot of it out there. It's readily available. And the decision-making process usually starts with something like, I know what I'm doing, I can handle it, I can control it, and I hear all these bad stories, but it can't happen to me. And once they get put in handcuffs, come out of the wagon, go to the booking window, then they realize it did happen to them, and they weren't in control. So the easiest way not to get involved with the police station and put a booking window for a drug offense is don't get involved in using drugs. It's very simple.
Captain Crowley, can you tell us what happens when someone gets arrested?
So once you're out on the street and you're placed in handcuffs, you're searched, your property for weapons and any evidence that might be related to the crime you get arrested for. And then the wagon shows up, and the wagon guy will search you again, and then you're put in the back. You're told to have a seat on the bench, grab the strap in the back, and hold on. And then we shut the door, and you end up at the police station.
After they get transported to the police station, where do they go?
They're going to come out of the wagon from here, and then we go down these stairs. We're going to take a left into an electronic door, and you're going to go into the booking area. Right up to that window. Hey, Jude. You're going to be brought up to this window. There's going to be a detention attendant behind the glass. There'll be an officer out here that will search you
while the detention attendant asks you a bunch of questions, name, address, where you go to school, if you have a job, height, weight, all personal information that you need to do during the booking process. You'll be handcuffed to this bar right here until those questions are answered. Once we've completed that, you're going to take all your property out of your pockets. Everything that's in your pockets, belts, jewelry, everything you have on gets taken from you, put in a property bag. You're going to have your shoes removed, and then you're going to step right over here where those feet are. And we're going to make you look up at that camera right there, and your photos are going to be taken. Front, side, if you have any tattoos, we're going to photograph all your tattoos. Scars, anything that's identifiable, that's all going to be done. Once the photos are done, you come over here to this machine right here. This is the electronic fingerprint machine, and your fingerprints are going to be taken. Through the screen right here, it's all electronic now, so you just put your hand on there and roll the fingers, and your fingerprints are on file forever. Once we're done the booking process, you might be put in one of the nicer cells that we have here, which is, if you look at the accommodations, they're very plush. Or we can give you one of our better rooms, which is back here. And here's another cell that you would.
This one's more dramatic.
These cells have been here since the building was put in. And that's what you get to lay on for the night. If you have to go to the bathroom, you can, and just know that everything you do in here is on film. Everything's on video. Every cell in here, every hallway is all on video, and it's kept forever. Then we shut the door, you lock it, and you're done until you either get bailed or go to court.
So from this point, what happens?
Well, you're in the cell until you get out, and you get out a couple of different ways. If you're going to be released to your parents, when your parents get here, you're allowed to leave with them for no cost. If it's a bailable offense and they're going to release you on that bail, the minimum is a $40 fee for the bail commissioner. Or they could actually put a bail on you anywhere from $100 to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the offense. If there's no bail, if it's been determined there's no bail or you can't make that bail, you stay here until the next court day, which is either overnight, or if it's a Friday, you're here until Monday. And if you're really lucky, it's a Friday and it's a holiday weekend and you stay here till Tuesday.
So let me give you a scenario. If you were to find an 18-year-old driving home with 20 Percocets on them and under the influence, what would happen?
Well, obviously they're going to get arrested. And there's going to be multiple offenses in the scenario that you just gave. One, they're going to be charged with operating under the influence of drugs. So that's an offense that's going to affect them in the criminal court, but it'll also, they'll lose their license through the registry of motor vehicles. 20 Percocets is sale weight of a drug. So you can be charged with possession of a drug, possession with intent, or if you, depending on the weight of the drugs that you have, you could be charged with trafficking. But 20 Percocets would be possession with intent to distribute. So that's a serious offense. So you would be charged with a felony for that. If you're within 300 feet of a school, that's an additional charge. So you'd be taken into custody. Every dime that you have on you would be seized, as would your car. We would hold your car until the case was adjudicated. And then you go before a judge. The bail commissioner will look at the facts of the case and determine if there's a bail required. And again, it could be anywhere from $40 to $40,000 or more, depending on what your record is. And then you go before a judge the next court day, and they could put an additional bail on you, or they could release you on recognizance, and then you start the process. You're going to have to hire a lawyer. You're going to go back to court many, many times, and whatever happens, you're going to stay with you until you die.
Thank you so much for having us. In conclusion, is there anything you'd like to add to wrap it up?
A couple of things. One, it's very important decisions that you make now as a high school student that can affect you for as long as you live. If you end up with a drug conviction on your record as an adult, which in the state is 18, it stays with you for the rest of your life. When you're applying for jobs, when you're looking for a security clearance for jobs, and it all part of your background. The fact that the offense happens when you're a juvenile doesn't necessarily mean your record doesn't come up again, because there is a record of that. You can be tried in certain offenses between the ages of 14 and 18 for an adult crime. and be seen in adult court, even though you're still technically a juvenile. And these things last forever. I mean, if you get a job that requires a firearm, you can't get a firearms license in the state if you have any type of offense, a conviction for possession of a drug, just simple possession. So the best way not to get involved in having these issues later on in life is don't start. If you don't start using drugs, then you don't have a drug problem. And if you do develop a drug problem, you get involved in drugs, that's a choice that you make. You will end up here, and you will be committing other offenses to support that happen. So don't start, and then we don't have to worry about you stopping. She nodded.
Hugs, not drugs.